Sneakers and Fur Coats, the number one podcast
Brought to you by
Boe Skagz, Jody P,
and Boe Skagz.
It's wonderful. Sneakers and fur coats. 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 We got Jody P. Sneakers and fur coats. They call me Boe Skagz. Sneakers and fur coats. 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 True hip hop, health, wealth, the Bible, conspiracies and everything else. We got sneakers and fur coats. Sneakers and fur coats. Jody P, Boe Skagz. Sneakers and fur coats.
It's your boy Boe Skagz, and you are now listening to the number one podcast on the internet, Sneakers and Fur Coats, with the number one host on the internet, my girl, your girl. Make some noise for Jody P.
So I'm a little under the weather tonight, so we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. I'm going to be interviewing Boe, so he's going to be doing most of the talking. So for those of you who don't know Boe Skagz, he's my hype man, co-host, sound engineer, right hand, also known as rapper 5-star Boe. He was raised in Hollis, Queens. I'm going to just give a little bio on him, even though he does not want me to, but I'm doing it anyway.
All right.
Rapper Boe Skagz, born and raised, well, no, not born, but raised in Hollis, Queens, born in Brooklyn, set his first rap at 8, recorded his first record at 14, under the guidance and management of the legend, his uncle, Jam Master Jay of Run DMC.
Big facts.
By the age of 17, he was writing songs for well-known artists and got his first opportunity to be featured on a Run DMC album, Crown Royal, along with Nas, the late great Prodigy, Fred Durst, and several notable others. He has a catalog of over 40,000 songs and has had record deals with 3 major labels. The title song on the Waist Deep soundtrack and songs with 50 Cent, JaRule, Ashanti, Nipsey Hussle, Fat Joe, just to name a few. But his story, and should I say testimony, is quite dramatic and has some serious life-altering plot twists, which brought him to where he is now as a Christian rapper, which is quite shocking, I'm sure, to many. Because, it's just kind of crazy. Like, okay, the way you began, you had a little cult following back with the Lead Mob in Hollis, and then you had the hit Cornbread.
Yes.
Tell me how that all happened.
Well, it's funny when I hear you run off those accolades. It sounds like it sounds funny. I usually don't listen to. I don't hear my accolades. You know what I mean? So it's pretty cool. So Cornbread. When I was I want to say, I might have did my first rap when I was 8. And then I really wasn't serious about rapping too much, growing up. I love music, you know what I'm saying? My uncle and him was big, so I always was like into hip hop music.
Right, and he was kind of like your father figure.
Yeah,
from what I understand.
Yeah. I'm talking about Jam Master Jay was
right. So you were like joined at the hip with him. Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, later on, obviously I'm way younger than he was, but when I started to write raps and Jay had all these artists, so they would come in and, I never really got a chance to do songs in the studio. When I was like 13, maybe I used to be around the studio, but I never really got a chance to do too many songs. But then one day, one of Jay's partners, he used to, be all from Hollis, so he would come to my mom's house and see me over there, me and my homeboys writing raps and stuff. And, he gave me a beat tape. He was like, yo, you guys make some raps to these beats that he made, you know what I mean? And we made the raps, and then we went to the studio. So Jay didn't even know that I was like even in the studio rapping. So his partner had me in there rapping. Jay didn't even know I was in there rapping. So I'm doing the songs, and I always believed that my two buddies were better rappers than I was. And so
That's funny.
so we did the songs, and Jay's partner was like, yo, Boe, he's telling Jay, yo, Bo's gonna be good. Like his man's in him, all right, but Bo's gonna be like great. I didn't see it at the time. So time went on. Jay, he had Onyx and 50 Cent.
So what happened with that project?
Well, we were getting a record deal. We were gonna sign. We had a crew called Criminal Clinic. And this is around the time when like Wu-Tang was big, and there was a bunch of us. We had some guys from Redfern, some other guys from Brooklyn. It was a bunch of us, and we were going to get a deal with RCA wanted to sign us, but one of the guys that I rap with, his mother wouldn't sign the contract, so we couldn't get a deal.
I've heard that story.
Yeah, so we was going to be
times.
signed as a group, but
Right.
his mom wouldn't let him sign. So, and he was mad at me a lot, after I got a record deal later on. But his mother is the one who ruined his chances.
Right.
But yeah, so we did. So that didn't work out. So I wound up, going solo for a little while, and just trying to perfect my craft. I wound up linking up with a guy named Orville, which is another big dog from Hollis. He was in a rap group called what was his name? Bugs Can and Trigger Man. They had some big records out of like some down south records that were pretty big back in the 80s. And so he worked for Adidas, and I started making records for Adidas. Adidas was making a record label, and I started making records for Adidas. Then when my uncle got a whiff of that, Jay was like, oh, nah. He heard the songs. He was like, oh, nah. He was like, nobody's coming out with my nephew before me. Straight like that. Nobody's coming out with my nephew before me. And so he snatched me up.
Okay, so up until this time, did you realize that did Jay have any interest in you?
No. Jay.
At least you thought he didn't.
Yeah, from what I knew, he had no interest in.
But why would his partner have gone over there and set you up to rap with your two friends? Maybe Jay was in on it. You didn't know it.
No, Jay wasn't in on it.
You think he wasn't?
Jay was not in on it. Jay's partner, he moved on his own accord. Jay was not in on it. You know what I mean? Because he was shocked. You know what I mean? Like when he, he was shocked that I was rapping. You know what I mean? Like he was like, "Yo, this is Boe." Like word. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, Jay, he said that Orville, the thing with Orville and Adidas is not happening. Nobody's putting out my nephew before me, right?
So he nixed it.
But he really wasn't doing anything with me either.
Mm-hmm.
So I wound up getting up with my boy DL, and we created Lead Mob. And
which was like a movement in Queens.
yeah, and we were like moving and shaking, you know what I mean? Like
right, you were like real heavy hardcore gangster rappers.
Yeah, we were underground, but we was like moving up. Like we had a lot of people like really. We was buzzing in Queens for sure.
Like you were like buzzing. Like was this around the same time as G Unit was buzzing?
This was like a little bit before G Unit. This is before G Unit, and we was in. This was before G Unit, and we was in the streets. I mean, I was on mixtapes with like Lloyd Banks before G Unit was even a thing like that. But
right, and you did a lot of mixtapes. Right, I mean, you did a lot of mixtapes, and you did a lot of rap battles.
Well,
right?
I didn't actually battle, but I was on like a lot of I did a lot of rap battles in the hood for sure. They would go get guys from like Brooklyn and Harlem and bring them to Hollis, and I would destroy everybody. And I'm not even being funny. Like I'm not trying to like big myself up, but if you
I heard DL say that you were like the best freestyler he ever heard.
If you ask people about me in Queens and the battles that I had on Hollis Avenue, they'll tell you I never lost. You know what I'm saying? I'm 100-0. I never took a loss. You know what I'm saying? But so I did Lead Mob, and we started getting a buzz. Like Irv Gotti wanted to sign us. We had a couple of deals that were like, kind of shaking or whatever. But I still was in the studio with Jay. Because that's what I really wanted. Like I wanted to do Lead Mob, and I wanted to do that, but I wanted to do my music with my uncle. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to be with my uncle doing my music. Like that's what felt right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, me and DL, we took our music to Jay. We took Lead Mob to Jay, and Jay listened to Lead Mob, and he was like bopping his head. But in his mind, I kind of feel like he was like, nah, these niggas ain't taking my nephew. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because he was like, oh, nah, this is okay. And he nixed that too. But you know what? He didn't really nix it. But what he did was he made me come to his studio more. So I would be like in the studio like all the time, and then it went from me not being able to record at the studio because other people were recording to me having endless sessions whenever I wanted. Right? So now,
who was in the studio at that time? Like Onyx, 50?
no, it was nobody. It was me.
But I mean, who was not going to be there because you were going to be there?
No, I mean everybody was already off like doing their thing. Like it was my turn. You know what I'm saying?
Got
like
you.
it was my turn. And so, you know, I'd be in there and creating, but Jay wasn't there. I was there with his partner. So we'd be in there creating music or whatever. And then we happened to make a song that was kind of like a joke. You know, it was called Take Them Panties Off. It was like a joke. Like we was doing like a parody.
Right, definitely not a Christian song.
Yeah, definitely not a Christian song. It was like a parody on like down south rappers. Like it was a parody. You know what I'm saying? So,
So it was like a joke, like a
yeah,
spoof.
yeah, it was a spoof. And but the fact that I lived down south and I did have like a bit of an accent, it kind of made it more.
So when did you live down south? Like for a spell? You lived down
for a
south.
spell with my grandmother. I lived down there for a spell. And
How long? Like a year?
I want to say maybe a year and a half, maybe two. And I came back with an accent.
So why were you down there?
I was going to do school and play ball and stuff like that.
Okay.
So when I came back,
Right, because you were a baller.
yeah.
Right.
So I was hooping, and when I came back, I had like a bit of an accent, and then you know we made this
So
spoof.
Jay liked the accent and he wanted to.
Jay liked the accent 'cause he was all
capitalize
over
on
the
it.
world. Like he was all over the world, and he knew that the down south music was getting ready to take over. Now, mind you, this was like 1997. You know what I'm saying? Like this was
Right.
like 97, 98. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we made this spoof record, you know what I mean? And we made this spoof record. It was like 1999.
Not we, you made it.
Yeah, so I made the spoof
You
record.
wrote it.
Jay's
Okay.
partner produced the beat.
Okay.
I made the spoof record.
so Randy
I
made the
wrote,
beat.
I
Okay.
wrote some of his raps, and we did the song. We created the song. He created the beat. I created the lyrics, the vibe, and and we was just like joking. So Jay came back. He heard the song. And he was like, "Did y'all make this?" And he was like, "Yo," and he loved it, which was wild. Like he loved it. He loved it so much that he took it with him when he went back on the road, and he would play it at the end of Run DMC shows, and the crowd would go crazy. He said, he's like, "Yo," so he'll come back, like he'll go away for like 4 weeks, then he'll come back and be like, "Yo, I had this record with me on tour, like it's crazy. We going on the next tour. You niggas is coming to do this song, right?" So me and
Now, had you already toured with Jay?
I
I mean,
had-
not as a performer, but had you
yeah,
gone?
me and Jay did like hype man stuff. I was his hype man.
Right?
I was his hype man for a while. Yeah, I was his hype man.
Until he
and
fired you.
Then he fired me. So I was he said I was the worst hype man ever. That's what he said. He was like, "Yo, Bo, you are the worst hype man ever."
And look
So-
at you now. You're the best hype man ever.
So the day he hired me, he fired me the same day. And
But he rehired you later, though, right?
He rehired me because we went to Vegas and we did a show at the Hard Rock Cafe, and I was already fired. So he didn't.
You had nothing to lose.
Yeah, he didn't expect anything from me because I got fired in Miami. So we in Vegas now, and he's setting up, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going for it. That's how I felt. I'm like, I'm going for it. I was like 18 years old. I'm like, I'm going for it. And he started doing the set, and I just grabbed the mic. I'm like, "Yo, Jay, turn this on." He turned it on. I just started going crazy. It was over. He paid me. He was like, "Yo, Bo, that's how you hype, man." He paid me. He said, "We got one more gig tonight. We leave that place, go to another place, do that." He paid me for that night too, and I was back on as a hype man. and it was went to New Orleans. We did like 7 shows in New Orleans. Like, so
Nice.
I earned my hype man stripes back. So we did the spoof song, and he took it on tour. He came back. He said we needed to go on tour with him because the spoof song was a hit. You know what I mean? And we went on the tour with him. We did the spoof song, Take Them Panties Off. We did it every show. And every show, the crowd got bigger for us, right? So we would go, and it was like 3 people that would stay and watch. Then we get to the next city, then it was like 12 people. I actually saw the song growing in real time, right?
Wow.
And you know,
What area what region of the
I mean,
country
we was
were you
we
in
was
at that
all,
time?
we was all up the East
When
Coast.
you first started,
we was
East
all up the
Coast.
East Coast,
Okay.
like Connecticut, Providence, Rhode Island,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, just all up the
Yeah.
East Coast. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
Eastern Seaboard.
And so when we did the East Coast and we came back, and he was like, "Yeah, you guys got to do an album." You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, "An album? Like I didn't want to do an album of that." You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, whatever. So we created the album, and it was all right. We created the album, and then we got a deal, which was ironic. We signed for $1 million.
And you were like one of the first
Yeah, so we got $1 million budget. It was us
to get a budget that big.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, we got
at
$1 million
that time.
advance money.
yeah, that's
And
crazy. And you signed to who? Virgin.
yes, so we signed with Virgin Records, and you know, I remember me and Jay had an argument about it because I didn't want to do it,
Right.
and he's like, "All right, we having a meeting." So we go in the meeting and they talk, and I'm like, "Yo, I'm out of here, man. This is whack." And he's like, "It's like, yo, sit down before I punch you in the face." and then I just was like, "All right," and then I sat down, and
That's
I
funny.
made a lot of money because of Jay. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Because Jay was money. But why didn't you want to do it? Why did
because
you
it
think it was
wasn't
whack?
because it wasn't my authentic self.
Right.
It was
Right,
it
because you
was-
were doing gangster rap, and that was who you were,
Yeah.
and you felt at home there, and then he wanted you to like go off the reservation,
and do a gimmick.
right?
You know what I'm
a
saying?
gimmick, right? And you didn't
And
need to do a gimmick because you were that
I didn't
talented,
need I didn't need to do a gimmick.
Right.
I felt I didn't need if I did need to do a gimmick, it wasn't that.
right? Exactly.
what I'm saying?
Right. You felt that was like a 180 of who you were, and you
Yeah.
just didn't want to do it. I
Yeah.
got you.
And I kind of felt like, you know, but I wanted to work with Jay, so I would, you know,
You would have done anything to
that's
work
what he
with
wanted me
Jay.
to do, so
Yeah.
it was fine. But then, you know, he got killed, and then everything kind of like came to a halt. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Because
So
you were the one that found him in the studio
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that, and that's very,
yeah,
very difficult.
yeah. So everything came to a halt. We had a tour that we was supposed to be on. You know what I mean? And you know, his funeral and all that stuff happened, and then we went on the tour, and
50
it sucked.
City Tour.
Yeah, we had a nice tour coming up. It was like our first run as Rusty Waters. It was like our promo run, so we wasn't getting paid for these shows. We had per diem, and we was just, you know, the label was giving us, you know, per diem, and along with the money that we just got from signing the deal, we had the per diem that they would give us every day, and we would just go do these shows, and this was like a buzz builder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we didn't even have a video out yet, so our video came out like our third date that we did. So we did like Dallas, and like we did like, you know, Jacksonville, Florida, and then we did a couple of, you know, states in the South, really deep in the South, and then when we got like to like Dallas, our video had came out, and we still continued this tour like up the going through the South, like New Orleans, Georgia, you know, all the southern cities, and then we so when we came back from that, you know, the label was kind of like shaky with us because, you know, it was like circling rumors about like my partner having something to do with Jay getting killed.
Oh, really?
And
I didn't realize that.
yeah, so it was like a whole lot of like rumors that kind of like got our project shelved because nobody wanted to be involved with the guys who knew about Jam Master Jay's murder. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I didn't know anything, and then come to find out, you know, Randy knew.
Right,
At the end
Randy,
of the day,
partner.
he knew. You know what I'm saying? So
All along.
yeah, all along he knew.
In all these years, and then
Yeah.
it finally came
Yeah,
out.
so he knew who it was and what it was, and but you know, so after that was over,
So like basically they were always trying to like ask you about him and interviews.
yeah. So
and-
interviews, everything was shadowed by that. I mean, it's understandable, but it kind of like took away from, you know, us even having a chance at, you know, making some money or you know, doing what Jay wanted us to do.
or branding yourself.
Yeah, his
Right.
star power was way brighter than ours.
Right.
We needed him to be alive in order for us to succeed with that project. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Because
right.
it was his vision. He had the vision for it. And without him, we didn't have a vision. It was his vision. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
So it came to a halt, and we wound up. I wound up leaving Randy, not doing records with him, Rusty Waters was just over. Like we did a couple of songs after that, and we tried to we got off the label, and we tried to do some stuff, but it just didn't work out. With me and Randy, because he was shiesty, and I was like, all right, I don't want nothing to do with him. So I got away from him. So then, and then I started just going on my own, just trying to figure it out, but I was super lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know I was looking for something, but I didn't know what it was at the time. I was chasing after something.
Right. Well, you were probably severely traumatized, to say the least.
Yeah, from seeing him. So
the loss alone. This was like your father, first of all.
So
you were very close. You loved, adored, admired, looked up to. He was your guidance.
Yeah.
He was the one that you answered to.
Yeah.
He was the person that kept you in check, from what I understand.
Yeah. So I kind of was in a bubble for 16 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's how long it took me to actually move, be able to move forward from it.
Wow.
And after that 16 years, my mother dies. A little bit after that, and in that 16-year gap, you know what I'm saying? Then my mom, she passes away, and I was already struggling with Jay's death all that time, because it kind of offset my life,
right?
And I was trying to pick the pieces
right.
back
It changed the entire trajectory of your life, I'm sure.
So I was trying to put the pieces together, but it was taking a long time. I mean, I signed a bunch of deals in between that. I did a lot of deals. I was signed to Russell Simmons Music Group. I was signed to this label, that label. I made a lot of moves and I made a lot of money in that time period, but it never felt right. You know what I'm saying? I lived in California. I lived in Houston. I lived in, you know what I'm saying? I was all over the place. Atlanta, Detroit. You know what I'm saying? I was making moves and I was making money, but nothing was right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so finally, my mother dies, and then well, not finally, but suddenly my mother dies, and then I just go bonkers. I go into a real deep, a deep spiral.
So deep spiral. What was going on in your life exactly? What was?
Right, so I kind of
where were you? Where were you during these 16 years? What were you doing exactly?
So I wound up moving to California, and.
Weren't you in Vegas for a while as well?
Yeah, I was in California
New Orleans,
first.
You were all over.
I was in New Orleans for a little bit. Then I went to Vegas.
But what were you doing? Were you performing? Were you touring?
No,
were you doing music?
I was doing music, but I was just mostly just trying to figure it out. I was just trying to find. I was trying to find out what I was going to do with my life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because
you knew your whole life this is what you were going to do.
Yes, and it wasn't fruitful at this time. So I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do, because...
But you were still supporting yourself to some degree with music throughout those 16 years, at least partially.
Yes. But it wasn't fruitful.
Right. And you were doing songs with Chopper City. You guys were kind of a duo for a while.
Yeah. So me and Chopper from Making the Band, we was going all around doing everything that we could do, but it just wasn't really what I wanted it to be. It wasn't fruitful enough. We did a lot, you know what I mean? But it was just something missing, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so then I moved to LA, and I got involved with pimping, and I got involved with real heavy with drugs, and I got involved with pimping, and it was very, very bad. So things started to get really out of control. Because I was on this constant search for financial freedom. Mm-hmm. And I was I will do whatever needs to be done in order for me to have this financial freedom, in order for me to be able to buy what I want, live where I want, drive what I want, give my kids whatever they want. I just needed
because
that.
You grew up with a certain lifestyle.
Yes.
Being Jay's nephew, and he being the caretaker of the family and the provider of basically your grandmother, your mother, yourself, your brother,
yes.
and
his kids, and so I was on a search for that for myself,
and that's very hard to duplicate.
Right.
He was like an international,
international superstar. So I got in the game,
and then you were blacklisted from the game, from your actual talent and what you always presumed you'd be doing for the rest of your life.
Yeah, so they kind of pushed They kind of like pushed me out. You know what I mean? But
So they blacklisted
still
you a
had
little bit.
people-
I mean, I know you don't like to say
I
that.
still had
but
people that would let me in, but like the higher ups would never let me get like going.
yeah.
But it was always enough for me to make money and have money from music, but it wasn't enough for what my dreams were and what my
Right.
plans were.
But also, let's be clear. You were kind of difficult to work with a little bit.
Well, you know, I mean,
Early on.
early on, I was a little difficult to work with.
Especially after Jay passed. I mean, you were very hurt and angry and
Yeah. I was a little difficult to work with. It's just because I didn't have any respect for anyone at that time, because I kind of felt like, you know, some people knew more than what they were letting on about Jay's death. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so I had lost respect for everyone. You know what I mean? And then
and you really couldn't trust anyone in your defense.
I didn't have to be nice. I wasn't getting paid to be nice. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I was getting paid to rap, and I was paying for everyone to be around.
Right, they were all on your payroll.
Yeah, so I didn't have to be nice or considerate. You know what I mean? That's how I felt at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they
Like,
didn't deserve it anyway.
Well, looking
To
back
be
now-
perfectly honest, I'm sure they didn't.
I mean,
deserve
looking
it.
back now, I would have treated people a little bit different. I mean, now,
At least some people.
the person that I am now would have treated people. a
Well,
little bit
but now
different, you know what I'm saying?
you're a believer.
But yeah. So So we
Where were we? So okay, so you're now these 16 years, you're doing drugs.
yeah. All right.
You're in a downward spiral.
All right. So I'm in Vegas, and so I get in the game with the women and things like that, and I make a lot of money. I mean, I make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, I make a lot of money. I was making $4,000 a day for like 3 years. You know what I'm saying? And I was spending money at a rapid rate. I was just doing whatever I wanted to do. You know what I mean? I got cribs. I got some cars, and then I wound up going to jail in California, and I lost everything going to jail. So I came out of jail, and I was like super duper depressed. And
Had you ever been to jail prior?
yes, yeah, I've been to jail a few times, but
Where in New York? Like
yeah, New
Rikers
York,
Island?
and a couple of times in New York and Atlanta. I did my fair share of jail in different cities. Vegas.
Did a jail tour.
I did a jail tour. Vegas is the nicest jail by far. No, but yeah. So so I lost everything, and I was so depressed. I wasn't doing music or nothing. But then I got introduced to some designer drugs, and then I got back on a horse. Like I started doing these drugs, and I got back active, and it wasn't a problem at first, you know what I'm saying? But then it became a problem, you know what I mean? Like, it became a serious problem, and so it was out of control, and I was chasing this money that I made from the life that I was living with the girls, and I was still chasing that money. So I was like in it, and then I lost everything. I was homeless. I was like sleeping under an overpass.
Wow.
And this is how funny God is. I know that God was involved. He wasn't involved with my downfall, but he was involved with my life. He had his hand on me. I was,
Wow,
I
God
was
is
ignoring
so
him,
amazing.
and I didn't want anything to do with
Didn't
him.
want any parts of God.
But he was still trying to show me he was there. So, like, I slept under an overpass right next to a church.
Mm-hmm.
Like, out of all the places that I could have been homeless at in Vegas, I was by a church, right? And I would go to the church, and I would get food, and the pastor was like a thug guy that was like Spanish, and he was like a
Used to be a gangbanger
a
or
gangbanger,
something.
and he would like, he's like, hey man, you wanna. He's asking me, like, what are you doing here? He would look at me and tell me, like, what are you doing here? You look like you don't even belong out here. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then he would, like, give me food and, let me go down there. I remember one day I was like, all right, I need to get some clothes. So I go to the church, and he's like, all right, well, I said, you guys got clothes here? He's like, yeah. He's like, well, come down here, and I'll let you, look through the clothes that we have here. So I start, finning through the clothes, and I'm like, oh. And out of I went shopping. It was like Ralph Lauren, everything in this church. So I grabbed like the Ralph Lauren khakis, the Ralph Lauren 3-button shirt. I was looking like a G. I was like the flyest homeless person you ever would see. You know what I'm saying? And so I did that, and then
So did he try to convert you? Did he try to
yeah, he
talk
tried to
you about
convert me. I told him I would never.
Jesus?
I told him I would not. I said, beat it. I don't want no parts of that. I mean, God is not my friend. So I kept trying to like run away from God. I just kept trying to run away from him as much as I can. Like I was trying my best to get away from him. And but he wasn't letting me go. But I was trying to get away from him. So I would put myself in these awkward, situations, and just make it worse for me. Like, so when people say that they're like, they don't have no place to go, and they don't, like, I chose to be where I was. You know what I mean? I had opportunities to not be there, but I chose to be there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You could always gone home to Queens.
Yeah, I didn't want to go home to Queens. I didn't want to go home and people would say I was a failure. So I didn't want to go home. Queens was not an option. My family was back down south, and New York, none of it was an option.
In your mind, none of it was an option.
So I wound up, spending another little stench in LA, in Vegas. And then it got really bad. I mean, it got so bad that I like looked at myself in the mirror in one of the hotels, in the bathroom in one of the hotels. I went to go like wash up, and I looked at myself and I was like, this is not me, man. I gotta get out of here. Like who are you? Like, who am I? I was talking to myself like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? This is not you. And I'm standing like, and I started staying in this like, this like hotel with these like other drug addicts, and we just like woke up every day, and we just like went. Our whole life was dedicated to getting drugs. That was like the whole life was all it was dedicated to was getting drugs, and so we wound up getting evicted out of this place
From this hotel.
Yes, from this hotel. So it was like a
weekly.
Yeah, it was like a weekly, and we wound up getting evicted from the weekly, and. So this was like God's perfect time for me to get me, right? So I'm like, this thing is up. I'm done. Like, really, in my heart, I'm done with being out here, and I just don't want to be here no more. I want to start to try to make a change. Wasn't for me. I wasn't going God's way, but I just wanted to leave the drugs because it was bad, and I couldn't stop. So I know I had to leave. So I made a call to one of Jay's.
That's what God gets you at rock bottom.
Yeah.
What do they say? There's no atheists in foxholes. Because when you're in your lowest moment, God is the one you call. God's the one you call when he's the only one you have, but he's really all you need.
Right. And I didn't know that at the time.
Well, no one ever knows that until they know that.
So what I do is, I start thinking about people who could help me, who I don't normally talk to. So I'm like, all right, let me call this guy. And I called one of Jay's friends. He's like an uncle to me too. His name's Jeff Flood. So I call Flood, and I'm like, yo, Flood, man, I need some money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to get out of here. He's like, yo, Boe, man. His voice is crazy. He's like, yo, Boe, man, I ain't got it, but you need to call this person. And he gave me the number to Jay's manager. It was Run DMC's manager. His name was Eric Blamerville. And I called Eric, and me and Eric never really talked. We never talk because we wasn't peers. Jay's manager, I was just like Lil Rodney to him. You know what I'm saying? So we so we wasn't peers. But he loved Jay, and he had love for me. So I said, Eric, man, I need to get out of here. You know what I'm saying? And he could probably hear the desperateness in my voice and knew that I was in trouble. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, well, I can send you some money, Boe. And I was like, well, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that you should just get me a ticket out of here. However, and I was so much of a bum then, I didn't even have identification. So I'm like, I can't get on the plane. You want me to get you a plane ticket? I said, I cannot get on the plane. I don't have ID. So just book me a Greyhound ticket. I'm going from Las Vegas to Atlanta, right? On the bus. This is like a 3-day ride or something.
Wow.
It's something stupid, right?
Right.
So I have no money.
2.5 days.
I have no money, and I don't even care about food. I just want to leave.
Right.
And he got the ticket for me, and I got on the bus and I left. I was supposed to be going to Atlanta to like get with Frenchie, like Waka Flocka's cousin, and to do some music because I wanted to just get back to like myself because I wasn't myself, and I had all this juice. I just wanted to get back to myself.
Right.
So when I got out to Atlanta, Frenchie ghosted me. Right. So he never answered the phone. I called him a bunch of times. I'm like in the middle of Atlanta with no way to get around. I'm like
nowhere to stay.
No way to stay or nothing. I'm like, God, like why, like, you know what I mean? Like, why would you do this? And I'm like, wait a minute, I got family in Atlanta. I'm like, well, let me see, let me just think. I'm like, I know I pretty much got people everywhere in the world, right? So I'm like, my cousin Hardy. So I called my cousin Hardy and I'm like, Hardy, pick me up, man. I'm stuck here. He's like, I got you. He pulls up on me and he don't even really know my situation because I'm not like disclosing this information to him.
Right.
I'm just like, yo, let me just crash at your crib for a couple days. You know what I'm saying? And I'll figure it out. And
when was the last time you had spoken to him?
I haven't spoken to Hardy in a while.
Like, what's a while?
I don't know. Maybe years.
Oh, just
maybe two or three.
2 or 3.
It's been a while.
A year.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Maybe 5.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But maybe we talked on the gram maybe once or twice. But like really seeing each other has been years. So he's like, all right, don't worry about it, cuz, you know what I'm saying? Like, you good. So I'm staying at his crib and I'm there for like a week, right? And then I just tell him like, hey, yo, Hardy, man, I don't really got nowhere to go, bro. So I need to just stay here until, I figure it out. And he's like, you good, bro. So you can stay here as long as you need to, all right? And it was love. And I was like, all right, cool. But my mission was to get out of there because I couldn't crowd up his space. He had his girl. My other cousin was there, Donald. And it was like, it just was becoming crazy. You know what I'm saying? It was like, and his girl and his kid was there. You know what I'm saying? Lil Hardy was there. And it just, you know what I mean? And it was just like, everybody was cool, but, it just was like.
Right. You don't want to overstay your welcome.
I shouldn't be here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So my goal was to get out of there.
Right.
So, I met a girl and, I knew her for a little while and we talked a little bit and she reached out when my mother died and, we had some conversations and, and
where did you know her from?
Well, I actually met her through Instagram. We was on Instagram and she knew somebody that I knew. And
where was she from?
She was from, well, she lived in New York for a long time, but she was from Pennsylvania. And so we talked and we made plans to meet each other. She didn't know my situation because I wasn't disclosing that information either, but I was.
So she knew you before.
Yeah, she knew me before
all this.
Yeah. She knew me before all this. And I was like, you when you want somebody to like you, you can't tell them you're in desperate need of help. You know what I'm saying? So, I went out to her, I went out to see her, and then, I wound up staying in Pennsylvania. She was nice. She's a nice girl. She was very fun. But I was so bad, right? So I wasn't very nice and I wasn't very fun. And then she goes, you know what? She goes, you know what? You need Jesus. I'm a Christian, right? And my dad is like a pastor and like, you need Jesus. You know what I mean? I mean, just like that. I mean, not those words, but like, nigga, you need Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, whatever. No, I don't. Right? And
no, I don't.
You know what I mean? And so I'm out there.
Now, but didn't you have a Christian background? Like,
I did. So
wasn't your grandmother a missionary?
Yes, my grandmother was a missionary. I went to church Monday, Thursday, Friday, sometimes Saturday, and definitely Sunday all day.
Right, and weren't you on the choir? She had you on the choir, and
I was definitely on the choir. I definitely wore the robes. Hebron Baptist Church in Brooklyn. Reverend Shepherd was the Reverend.
I think that church is still there.
And we did that, and I did that.
Excuse me.
But I hated it. But this girl, she knew that I needed, and God knew that I needed her and her people. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as her and her family goes, my soul needed to be around people like that. Like I needed that in order to better myself. But I didn't know it but God knew what he was doing. He put me with one of the most loving, patient females in the world because you had to be patient to deal with me. You know what I mean? You had to be a patient person to deal with what I was going through at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I got there and, you know, I'm like, yo, I need to go and sell drugs because that's really all I knew. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, all right, so I go, you know,
Brilliant.
I get some money, I buy some drugs, I go out to sell them, and I go to jail immediately. So God's like, yeah, well, good idea. He's like, I got you. Don't worry about it. You want to sell drugs? I got you. Boom. He's like, this is what I needed you to do. I needed you to do this so you can go to jail because I need time with you. So I get to jail and this is the first time in jail. When I got to jail, this is the first time that I actually saw like what God and what Jesus and believing in Jesus and knowing God, what this can do for you. Mm-hmm. So it's the first time that I seen what it can do for you.
So it was like the first time you saw the realness.
Yeah, the first time that
Christ.
I saw what it can do for a person that loves Jesus and follows God, and you can tell those people apart from normal people, you know, in the world. You know what I'm saying? Worldly people.
Yeah.
And so I met a guy, and he, you know, he had all these tattoos and all this stuff, and he was like, you know, I watched him for a couple of days. I'm like, yo, who is this guy? Because he seemed a little bit more relaxed than everyone else. Everyone else was in a frenzy, but not him. So I thought he was Spanish. He had tattoos. I thought like his brother was like the head of the cartel or something. I mean, I don't know what I thought, but I did not think what he told me. So a couple of days go by, and I'm like, well, I'm going to ask this guy, like, how is he like? Because I'm not from this town where I'm in jail at, and I don't know anyone. So I'm like, all right, so let me try to figure out some things around here. You know what I'm saying? And so I keep my eye on this guy. So I get a chance to talk to him, and I'm like, hey, you know, let me ask you a question. Like, what's up with you, man? Like, you know, how you like so like at peace in here? Like, it's a little wild in here, bro. And he's like, you know, man, I believe in Jesus. You know, I read the Bible and I believe in Jesus. That was his exact words. I read the Bible and I believe in Jesus. And I was like, man, if you're just gonna tell me anything, bro. I was like, whatever. And I just walked off because I'm like, this guy.
That wasn't the answer you were looking for.
This guy's obviously lying to me, right? So I walks away from him and I go out to rec, and then Rec's over, and he comes out to rec, the Spanish guy. He comes out to rec. So mind you, I'm out there playing ball. I got like, it's like 3. So where I was at is like the hub for ice, right? And so all the, you know, immigrants, they get shipped there before they get deported to this jail that I was in.
Okay.
So
and where was this jail?
This was in York County. So York
in
County,
Pennsylvania.
PA. Yes.
Okay,
York
on
County,
the East
PA.
Coast.
Yes. So York County Jail is like the hub for ICE.
So it's like north of Philly in Baltimore and stuff.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like Harrisburg. It's like the capital of Pennsylvania. It's like right attached to the capital of PA.
Well, York is not Harrisburg.
But it's like Harrisburg and York is like connected
little
counties. So he comes outside, and I'm playing basketball with like 4 guys who don't even speak English, like an Ecuadorian, like a full-blown Mexican, like, you know what I'm saying? Like a couple of El Salvadorian, you know what I mean? Like these guys don't speak any English. And so the guy goes, hey, can you guys, like, everybody, let's pray with me. And I'm like,
this is the guy with the face tattoos and everything. He says, everybody, pray with me.
He goes, everybody, let's pray. And I'm like, pray? Like, this guy, like, he just won't quit. Like, you know what I'm saying? But you know, I was taught that if somebody asks you to pray, you pray. You don't be rude and say, you just don't say no to pray.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, well, whatever. So I get down on my knee.
So everyone's on their knees.
Everybody's on their knees, right? So he starts praying, and he starts praying in English. But the guys who cannot speak English at all, they're all crying.
All of them.
All of them. They're all crying. And I'm like, why? I'm like, why are you crying? You don't even know what he's talking about. You didn't even right? But at this point, I didn't know what this was.
You didn't realize the move of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
and how
I knew
it could be
I knew nothing
powerful.
about the Holy Spirit. I just thought that these guys were psychos. Right?
But did you feel anything when he was praying?
I felt nothing.
Okay.
I felt nothing. I felt like these guys are crazy. But I will say this. I was very intrigued. right? I will say that. I was very intrigued though. So they moved me from this place where they were, and when I got transferred to a next part of the jail, the first thing that I asked for was a Bible. So I asked the C. I said, how can I get a Bible? He's like, you got to go to chaplain. I didn't even know what a chaplain was. I'm like, all right, what's a chaplain? Who's the what's a chaplain? They're like, when the guy, they come around and do, it's the preacher, the pastor for the church. He comes around and asks him for a Bible. You'll get one. So I said, all right, well, I got a Bible. And I didn't know how to read it. I didn't know like what you're supposed to read. You're supposed to read this book first, this book first. So I just to open it up, and whatever chapter, whatever book I was in, I would just find a chapter and read that chapter. And it always pertained to how I was feeling or what was going on with me, like every time I opened it up. So it made me think like this book is magical or something, because there's no way that every time I read something different.
It is
you know
magical. It's the living word of God.
So that happened. So, so I calls my girl and I'm like, hey, like I'm reading the Bible and I'm like super excited. And she's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, and I read this. And I'm like, I read this. And, and then when I get out, I got to get baptized. I had all of this love like flowing through me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
wow.
So I got out, I got baptized. And
got saved. I
got
guess.
saved, baptized, filled with the Holy Spirit. I mean, all of those things, speaking in tongues. I mean, all of those things.
Wow.
And I was still like, some people, it happened for them like really quick. Like they get saved and immediately everything changes, right? For me, it wasn't like that, because I had demons, so I had a lot going on with myself. So
you were in spiritual warfare. The
I didn't
demons
know it
were
at the
trying to
time.
hold you back.
I didn't know it at the time, right? But I know
hanging
now that
on.
it was spiritual warfare. But so it didn't happen. My change didn't happen quickly, But it took time. But I had to work. So I was a little bit worse off than a lot of people. And I'm not saying I was the worst, but I was up there. You know what I mean? And I was one of the generals in the devil's army. You know what I mean? Like I was definitely a general in the devil's army,
Boe.
for sure. So, and I had to work to get those demons out. I went for deliverance. I mean, I did everything I can do to try to get myself on the right track, because I was actually tired of living and living the way I was. And I mean,
You're tired of living in sin.
yeah, I was tired. I was just tired of that life. And I get deliverance, and so now we back to the music, right? So now I'm saved, and I'm like, Jesus, is the Lord of glory, but how do I make music now?
Right, because your music was so bad.
Right. So how do
you were a super talented rapper back then, super talented, but
it was vulgar.
Your music is more than vulgar. It was just so dark. It was like as evil as it could get on every possible front.
I wouldn't go that far, but it was bad, right? But
okay.
Look, so all right, so now I'm stuck in this space where I don't know what to do as far as music goes, right? So I get delivered, I go for deliverance, and I would suggest deliverance to anyone who's like having problems like that, and you're saved and you don't know why you can't get over a hump. I would like recommend deliverance. You know what I mean? Like it's a real thing. It helps. But I was bad. So I still, even though I got delivered, I had to go for deliverance twice. So I got deliverance, and I went to like a private, intimate church service at someone's house after the deliverance. And
so it was like a home service.
It was like a home service. And we are, the guy who usually does the music at this home service was not there. So they started watching these videos, these worship videos.
Or like on YouTube. Like on
on
TV.
YouTube. So it was this worship, this church called Jesus Image. They out of like Orlando, Florida, I think, or something like that. And I'm watching that. Now, mind you, prior to this, I hated Christian music. I always say they were the worst singers, the worst rappers. They make the worst movies. Everything about Christian entertainment, I hate it, right? So this video comes on with this girl named is Dominique Hughes. She starts singing. Most beautiful voice I've ever heard in my whole entire life. Right? Greatest song, Yeshua. Greatest song I've ever heard. Greatest moment of worship I've ever seen, I've ever felt. I cried the whole service.
Wow.
I mean, puddles of tears.
Wow.
The whole service.
Well, God was purging you.
And
that's what it was.
And I looked at the screen, and she was up there singing Yeshua, and it was in front of 50,000 people. It looked like. Could have been 30,000, but it was thousands of people, not hundreds.
Tens of thousands. Right?
Thousands, right? And I go, and I see myself. I see her, and I see myself. I said, oh, okay. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna make Christian hip hop music. This is what I'm gonna do.
Wow.
Now, before that, I said I would die before I would chop my arm off and bleed in the street before I do any Christian music. But after deliverance and after seeing that, I said, all right, I'm doing Christian music. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what I'm supposed to. I heard the voice, and it said, this is you, that's you. So I'm doing it. And I didn't do it right away because I didn't know how.
Yeah.
So I waited a couple of weeks, and then I said, okay, I'm going to go do my first Christian song. And it was like it was like a little singy kind of melodic kind of song of music that I don't really do, but I didn't know.
And that was a song called "In My Life."
Yeah,
is that what it was called?
It's a song called "In My Life."
I mean, it's a great song. It's not like your other Christian songs.
Yeah, I never released it.
I will say this: all of your songs are different.
Yeah, I never released that song, but that was my first song, and I never released it.
Right, I heard it though, and it was really a nice song.
But I didn't. But that wasn't me. It was what I thought I needed to do. It was what I thought I was supposed to do as a Christian artist. I thought this was what Christian music is supposed to sound like. So I didn't do any more songs after that one. It took me some time before I started to do more songs. But I said to myself, well, I have to figure out how to be myself with the music, right? I was like, well, how can I be myself and I'm like, well, you know what? I might have to create something that doesn't exist.
Right.
Like hardcore Christian hip hop. It's not a lane. It doesn't exist.
Right, truly.
Christians are usually like powder puff rappers, no disrespect to any of them, but they usually kind of want to paint this image of being perfect and looking perfect and sounding perfect. But I'm like, I'm not perfect. I'm Boe Skagz. So let me be me.
Who you are today.
So I make the hardest Christian songs ever. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the hardest beats, the hardest raps, the hardest testimony raps is what I make. I make testimony Christian songs, and they are by far the greatest music that I've ever made in my entire life. And then, and I put out my first, so I recorded Christian music for 3 years before I put out an album because I was on the fence about it because it's a rough transition to go from secular music to Christian music because you're going to lose a lot of people who loved your music, who you're going to lose those people, you know what I mean? And I didn't want to start from scratch, but being born again means you start from scratch.
All things are new. You
get a second time to go at it. And so I said, you know what? This is the brand new me. I had sent, and I'll tell you a story before we get out of here. I used to always have this argument with my girl, and I used to say, well, how am I going to make money from Christian rap music when no one wants to hear it? And she would say, don't do it. We'd argue, then she'd kick me out, right? And we would do this every 2.5 weeks. Like I'd make some like really dope songs, and then we'd be happy. Then I'll go, well, how am I gonna make money off of this? Then she'd be like, what you asking me for? I'm like, well, I don't know. Well, get out, right? And then I'd be kicked out. You know what I mean? For the night. But it's a joke, but that was real. Like that was what was happening. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know how to make money off this because I only made music
profit.
I started off making music because I loved it. I got in the game and I realized that this makes money. So then I started making music because I wanted to make money. So the love left, and me wanting to make it a career and be prosperous from it is what drove me for a lot of years. So I didn't understand how I was going to sell it. So I sent these songs out to one of my guys in Atlanta, and he's listening to it. He lets his nephew listen to him. And his nephew calls me early in the morning, like 9:30 a.m. And I'm on the phone. He calls me at 9:30 a.m. and he's like, "Hey, yo, Bo, man, those songs you sent me, man, they great, man. My nephew want to talk to you." So I get on the phone with his nephew and he's like, "Yo, Bo, man, I'm listening to the songs, man. They fire, man. But let me ask you this, man. How do you expect to get paid off of this? When nobody wants to hear Christian rap?" And at that moment, God downloaded the answer to me. And wow. I told a young boy, I said, if you're looking to make money off this music, then don't do it. This is not something that you do for profit. This is to edify the listener, right? This is not for your personal gain. If you get something from it, it's a blessing. If you make finances from it, it's a blessing. But you can't go into this for finance. You'll never make it. You'll never get it. This should be edifying the listener.
Well, it's to lead others to the light.
It should edify the listener. It should lead people to the light. It should give all praise to God. It should glorify God and all things of that nature. It should. Yes. That's what it should do. If that's not what you went in for, then you shouldn't do it.
Right.
And at that moment, I said, I'm ready to put my album out because I was able to answer my own question.
The same question that you were asking your girlfriend.
Yeah, the same question I was asking my girlfriend that she didn't have the answer.
Again, that she didn't have the answer.
She didn't have the answer to it. So, but God gave me the answer to give to somebody else.
Wow.
And when I gave that kid the answer, I also gave myself the answer.
As soon as you spoke it out loud.
And then the very next day, I went and I released my album. So I released the Revival the very next day.
Wow.
And so now I'm on my second album, and it's been 2 years since the Revival album I dropped. So now I'm dropping my new album. It's called M633, which is Matthew 633. And that album, and that verse is, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So that is the key to success, right? This is
yes, it is.
That's the key to success. Like, forget everything else in the world. You seek the kingdom of God first and all his righteousness. Everything that you ever want or ever need or ever thought that you might have wanted will be added unto you. Will be given to you. It's yours. Stuff that you don't even think you want, stuff that you don't even know you need, will be given to you in abundance. But this is the key to life. So I named the album that, and it should be out in a couple days. It's coming out on the 22nd, I think. What's today? The 20th. It's coming out tomorrow, I think.
Oh, wow. The 21st?
Yeah, it'll be out.
Wow.
It comes out on the 22nd. It comes out on the 22nd.
Okay.
So it'll be out on the 22nd.
That's excellent. So can we hear a song? Can we end the show on a song?
Yeah, we'll end the show on a song. I have something that I could that I can get into
from the new album, or
so this will be a cut off the new album, M633. This is Keep Running featuring Sophie. Let's go.
Okay.
Let me see what I got.
I will never run away. Save my life, that's why I pray. I'm thankful for today. You gotta crawl before you walk. Stand tall, and when you fall, just be thankful for it all. It's okay to take your time. If you're sick, then you will find. Just gotta keep them on your mind.
We all know that life can be hard. You wanna run, but you can't run from God. I ran from it all. I ran from the fall, but every time I ran back to the Lord. They talk about stories about prison and how they did it. Me, I want to tell them about God. Can I get a witness? I know it ain't my business, but when you in the trenches and you trying to get out, maybe you should try repentance. I let my faith speak for itself. Now how you smart when the only one you teach is yourself? I talk to God, I know it look like I speak to myself. His hands on you, if you were smart you would reach for his help. You know the saying, you can bring him to the well but can't make him drink. But I'm Peter on the water, he won't let me sink. He let you walk through the fire just to forge you. And if you say his name, then he will never ignore you. Only if you can be chosen. Now fall on the rock and be broken. Yeah.
I will never run away, save my life, that's why I pray. I'm thankful for today. You gotta crawl before you walk, stand tall, and when you fall, just be thankful for it all. It's okay to take your time, if you're sick then you will find, just gotta keep them on your mind.
We all know that life can be hard. You wanna run, but you can't run from God. If I had to pick a side, I'd be the one that I'm on now. And I'ma keep going up until it all falls down. Make my songs for the Lord, I don't care if you listen. See my bars all anointed, I was chose for this mission. A lot of paths I could've took, see this road here chose me. Comfortable in my skin, cause I know who knows me. I might fall short, but my faith is strong. Finally found my way, who knew it'd take this long? Was having trouble with the fame, the struggle and the pain. I rumbled with the devil, had the scuffle in his name. I'm humbled, not ashamed, was strengthened by the flame. Ever since I got saved, listen, nothing was the same. Now we on the same page, I never been afraid. I'm on my way to heaven, I ain't worried about the grave. Only if you can be chosen. Now fall on the rock and be broken.
I will never run away, save my life, that's why I pray. I'm thankful for today. You gotta grow before you walk, stand tall, and when you fall, just be thankful for it all. It's okay to take your time, if you're sick then you will find, just gotta keep them on your mind.
We all know that life can be hard. You wanna run, but you can't run from God.